Hello everyone, can you hear me? All right, seems like it's working. So my name is Andrius Balčiūnas, and I'm currently working as an art director in a company called Fox 3D Studios, which is located in Estonia. And I'm working there as an art director now. I started there to work as a 3D artist, which was, I think, in 2012, so it's been 5 years that I've been working in Fox 3D Studios. And we are basically outsourced studio, which means that we are doing the visual art for various clients. Mostly those are actually games, and a lot of actually AA games. Currently I do less of art or CG art itself, but more of the management, recruiting, project developing, talking with the client, making sure that everything is work and stuff like that. So in general, I've been doing CG for, I think, 17 years now. I started in 2001, I think. So yeah, it's 17 years. But professionally, I started to work in 2007. And when I started to work with games, doing the assets, and that was something that I didn't like at that time. And for the major time of my life, I've been doing, actually by speciality, I guess I could say that, I'm a lighting and rendering artist. So this is where I actually specialize, doing lights and rendering. And when I started to work in 2007, I've been doing the assets, but I soon realized that this is not what I wanted to do, so I finished the job very quickly, even though I got a lot of experience. But then I went to do it on my own, teach myself, just become a self-taught artist, and I've been practicing lighting and rendering. And the reason is even though games where I enjoy playing games, I really do, but for the major time, I never looked very seriously into game graphics because they were always like very low graphics compared to the production render. And I was always inspired by movies, by very quality advertisements that gave the production level rendering that's realistic or very artistic. And when I remember when I was disappointed working with the assets of the games, the main reason was because I felt like I was spending a lot of time doing this optimization part rather than concentrating on the art itself. And so I got this kind of, burnout effect of everything, and I didn't want it to do. And when I started to work in Fox 3D for the first 3 or 4 years, I've been doing anything but real-time graphics. And that was posters, like I said, management. I did, we at Fox 3D made the game, all the visual part it's quite known now in Subnautica, if you know it. So I did the first teaser video for them. I was responsible for doing it from A to Z, including the budget and everything. And until recently, I guess 2 years ago, when I started to see current engines producing the samples of quality that got my curiosity, because I saw some, I guess the first video that really drew my attention was an Unreal Engine 4, the tech demo called Infiltrator. When I saw it, I remember I got this kind of, like an idea, like, okay, this is actually starting to become looking really good. Like, it's not there yet, like not the production level type of quality yet, but it's good. It's really good. And it got my curiosity, like, okay, I want to try it. And I started to look into engines like it would be a rendering system. I didn't look into the engine as I'm developing games, because I'm a CG artist after all, but I was like curious, what kind of quality can you actually produce with this thing, So I started, I picked the Unreal Engine 4, obviously, even though I don't have any preferences, like, for example, in my work currently, I use a lot of engines because clients, like, for example, have their in-house engines, so I have to, like, know quite a lot of engines, at least to the level where I can export the assets that we're doing, so. But at that time, I decided, like, let's go with the Unreal Engine 4, because at that time, and 2 years ago, it was probably visually the most appealing one, and I decided, okay, let's go. So I took it, I started to learn the basics, I got familiar with the user interface and everything. And I thought, okay, let's go and see what he can actually do, you know. So I remember at that time I didn't have any of my personal models that would be optimized already for the games, and I was actually too lazy to make one just for a test. So I decided, you know, just to find some model. Obviously, I couldn't use anything from my work as well because it's a copyright, it's an NDA material, you know. So I decided that I will Google something, you know, and see what maybe I will find it, whatever. So I found, just went to the website where actually people put 3D models that are captured from games or whatever, and I found an Alien Queen model, you know, which was captured from the very old game called Alien vs. Predator, which was made like in 2010 or something, you know. And I even have actually an image of this, just to show how simple it is actually, because it's quite old. It has like 7,000 trees or something, which is considered low these days, considering that the character these days can actually go up to 100,000 actually, maybe even more. And yeah, it had like 1K texture for the whole module. It's actually, you probably cannot judge, but the Alien Queen as a concept is actually, I know it's like 4 or 5 meters tall, so for that kind of level quality, you would need like at least 4K, you know. So, but anyway, I thought, okay, this is good enough, because it had normal map, which gives some sort of small details and everything. I thought this is going to be exactly what I need just for testing out, to see what's going to happen. So I started to put lights, added some atmosphere, and then I decided I need to go a little bit further. So I actually started to play with the Unreal Engine capabilities, and that was specifically that I didn't want it to update this model itself. I just wanted to see how far can I go with Unreal Engine 4 without doing anything additional to this model, like sculpting it to the more details or anything like that, you know. So let's see which. I ended up having something like this, and I'm actually going to run it in real time because I have it. Oh, we have even the sound. So this is the same module in Unreal Engine 4. The difference is that it uses real-time tessellation. It also uses a little bit more complicated shader, which applies additional layer of very small micro details. I did all animation, by the way. I forgot to mention that, because when I put the module, I realized that it was a little bit boring to have it like that. So I decided to go a little bit even more further by making the animation. And yeah, I think I can even run it to show the tessellation. Like, for example, here you can see it's the same model, but with the tessellation it starts to be a little bit more rounded. Oh, sorry. Probably. Let's try it one more time, because I still have a lot to talk about it. So so yeah, and the environment around it has also dust particles, smoke particles. All of the animation has a little bit more rigging points, because I updated the rig as well in order to make this animation. And yeah, the lower part of the environment, I kept it a little bit simple so that you can concentrate on itself, on the model itself. And all the real-time motion blur, all the shaping, all that was done in 3ds Max, obviously not in Unreal Engine 4. I had to import everything into the engine. And the sound, by the way, was done by my friend Carlos, who is also actually working in the game industry as a sound designer. So it was like a personal project, which was done just for I don't know, teaching myself and finding something else. But at this point, by the way, this when we posted this on YouTube, it got like 1 million views, which was very surprising for us, because it became one of the most popular videos related with Unreal Engine 4. So at this point, I said, okay, this is cool. If you can take this low type of model and push it to this level, considering the fact that I didn't even have a lot of experience back then with Unreal Engine 4, I thought, all right, this has a potential, so let's see where I can push it even further, you know. And I started to try a little bit different approach. I actually have this other demo which is still in progress, which is almost done, but it still needs some work. I'm going to show it. By the way, my Carl's friend, which I mentioned, is doing now the sound design, because there was one thing. This is based actually on a documentation that Epic, who created Unreal Engine 4, gave themselves online. They made the tech demo called McLaren. They show in case in this McLaren car, and they gave for free their all shaders that were included in that, and they gave documentation as well explaining what you need to do in order to push the quality even further. So you actually have to slightly modify the Unreal Engine 4 to push this quality, because it's not actually dedicated to be kind of game ready, but it's just to push all the reflections and all the ray tracing as much as possible, you know. So I took it because I was like curious as well, and I started to do, well, my own car. Obviously, I just took it Audi R8 for as an example. But the other reason was I was very interested to see what can you do actually with the editing itself, because Unreal Engine 4 offers as well editing. You can actually put all the editing there. You don't need to like capture all of the scenes and then put them, like, let's say, in Adobe Premiere and make the all editing. You can actually do everything inside Unreal Engine 4, and at the end of the day, you just have the final output of everything. So I played with that as well, because there is this game called Hellblade, I think, or probably I forgot, Hellgate or something, you know, about this schizophrenic girl who is having her own trip, you know. And for this game specifically, they actually developed the old sequencer, new sequencer, which was a lot more flexible. I sat with the Carlis, who is doing the sound, and I said, look, I want to do something which I'm doing actually just to teach myself, but to keep my motivation. I want to do something a little bit, you know, more artistic, and I want your consultation. And Carlos, he's a kind of a guy who's doing like very aggressive type of sound. Like his favorite music genre is neurofunk and drum and bass and dubstep, you know. So he's like a kind of crazy sounds like that. And I'm telling him, like, I want to make this video to be very aggressive. Like, I want to make very fast shots, and you know, like they're going to be extremely aggressive, and maybe that might actually be distracting, but what do you think about it? And he says, oh my God, give it to me, like instantly, make it like that, and I'm going to rape the shit out of that, you know, sound. And it's like, all right, so let's go with that. And the technical part was that since Unreal Engine 4 is running in real time, the main problem is that when you're going from one scene to the other, sometimes it jitters, it leaves this kind of, I don't know how to say that, artificial errors or whatever, you know. So we were like afraid that if we're going to have very fast cuts, they're going to look like blurry, or something is just going to be like not appealing to eye in general. But in the end, we like work out, we changed a lot of scenes. We had like, oh my God, like, I don't know, probably 15 cameras or something. But at the end of the day, it takes around 40 seconds. And it has 20 shots, I think, you know. So currently it looks like this. It might actually slightly change a little bit, but obviously with sound it will look a lot more cool, you know. But I'm running this on my laptop currently. It has 4 million polygons. It's going real time with all ray trace, depth of field, motion blur, fake global illumination, shadows. The environment is baked, you know. So yeah, this is our new tech demo. Now, I'm showing this, and I actually have a direction where I'm going with this presentation. You probably have noticed that, or maybe you didn't, but the current generation that started to show these kind of very realistic graphics, it didn't affect the game industry as much as it affected other industries. And that's a very important part, because I personally really love playing games. And I know a lot of people who are developing games, and you among you are a lot of people who are actually developing also games. And you're always constantly thinking about what type of prototype can I make in a game in order to make it interesting. And this is a very normal thing to think about. It's a very natural thing. But the thing is that the main idea is that we should be hitting with these possibilities, making realistic games. Like, as I'm playing games, I do realize that realistic graphics, and in general a very good-looking graphics, isn't the key to success of the games. Actually, the most successful games are not very realistic, or they're not very visually the best out there, you know. So the point is that when you have these type of capabilities, you should be thinking not what type of game you can make, but what type of experience you can actually make. Here I'm going to give you an example. Last year I worked on a VR project, 3 of them actually, and none of them were related with games at all. And this got me thinking, you know, like one of those were dedicated, it was a learning system for students, doctors who are going to be patients that identifies dementia signs in all elderly people. So we actually made this project where the old guy is lying on the bed and he like makes very, you know, sudden or not sudden moves, and the person who is learning this, he has a VR helmet and he's holding these virtual instruments and he's like doing something, you know. This was the first project. The other project was a presentation for ship industry or something. It was like a technical radiator thing or something like that, you know. And then I got this one idea, which I don't know, it might actually already exist. If not, I'm still looking like to do it. If, by the way, somebody is willing to code it, please let me know. I'm willing to do the visual part. But I had this like very simple idea with VR. Like, for example, you can make yourself standing in, let's say, 20 or 50 floor building on a roof, looking down like that, seeing all the city, and then you just jump. And you just fall down and you die. It's a simple idea, but if you think about it, it's actually a very interesting conceptual idea, because I'm absolutely sure that when VR is going to be popular, these type of experience are going to be popular as well, because I'm more than sure that a lot of people would like to feel what it feels like to die without actually dying. I'm not sure, maybe this idea is already existing. I don't know, I'm giving the idea, you know. And this is just, you know, like a tip of an iceberg, because the other part is that you can actually save lives with this. Because a lot of people, like, they want to kill themselves, but they are like, afraid to do it, you know, and they're like, oh my God, if I could like somehow feel what it feels like to die, maybe I wouldn't want to do it, you know. And from a technical point of view, it's actually very easy to do. You're just lying visually on a building on the upper part, and then you just have this pound, I don't know, technical, I'm not a coder, you know, but your pound becomes like at one moment when you press the action, you know, action button, it becomes just a ragdoll. And you just fall down, like, with spinning, with everything, you know, it just makes you dizzy, and then you just die when it hits the floor, it's just black screen, you know. It's a very simple idea. It can be realized actually, from the code perspective, it can be realized in probably less than a day, you know. Visually it would take a lot more, but, you know, it's still like 2 weeks probably project, you know, and the impact is quite actually huge. So that's one idea. The other idea, like, for example, I heard, I was actually very fascinated to hear this. It was, there's somewhere, there is this girl who has this paralysis of spine or something, I don't know how to say it in English. Well, shortly speaking, she can't move her body, like, below her head. And she always dreamed of running in the beach. Just, you know, running in the beach. That was her whole life dream, you know, because she can't move. It's obvious. It's a very natural dream to have. And her parents, like, they realized when they saw this VR becoming like popular thing, they decided, oh, maybe somebody can do it actually, like just making a video where she can actually turn around, because she can't move her head. She can turn around and see the stereo 360 whatever, you know, vision of herself running in the beach. So she found some people who were actually willing to do it, and they made it. And again, it wasn't very difficult to do because they just used stereo cameras that are actually 360. They made this video. If you look down, you see your legs running, and they made it, and they put it on her head. And there is video somewhere which I, by the way, haven't seen it. I was told it was very emotional, like because she's crying, and those tears are coming from the VR helmet, and the parents are crying. It's an emotional thing, and it's very simple, you know. So it's not a game, because games have their own place, and it's fun, you know. But when we have such capabilities, and they're going to even go further, because we have real-time graphics, which is very realistic, and soon it's going to be even online, probably, like streaming real-time, you know. And VR is going to become probably someday, I think, because it's not working out, obviously. VR is still not popular because it's too expensive. It's very hard to set up. And people are just like, it's complicated, I don't want it, you know. But when it's going to become like 200 euros asset, which you can just put on your head and push one button to sync with Bluetooth with your phone or laptop, it's going to be something, you know, it's new type of experience. And if you're going to start to think now these ideas and teach yourself how to do and develop everything, you will be ready by then to have some awesome projects. So I guess this is what my presentation was supposed to be about. Thank you.
Thank you for this interesting insight. And I can see that we have one question, and if we have more, please prepare.
Hi, so it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. So there's this game Superhot, I think you've heard of it.
Yeah.
There's part of it in which you really have to look down and then jump off and die. They're exactly the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Just that it makes you a bit motion sick. And that fall is really short, so if you're considering a long jump from a huge building, you're going to get a lot of motion sickness from that. Yeah, so just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thanks. I think that, you know, motion sickness shouldn't be the only experience you feel while you're falling, because you actually have, making it long actually makes sense because you probably have a lot more time to think about whether you really should do it in real life or not. So that would probably be the main idea. But, you know, yeah.
Well, I can try to help you out then if it's not important.
All right, we can talk about it.
Yeah, there's also a game, I don't recall its name, but I have tried it. That's basically exactly what you said. You're standing on a tall building, there's a plank, you walk out to it, it's like 20 stories something. Yeah, you stand there, I remember like, you get a cake, you throw down the cake and you just like see, woo, pop down there. And then the guy, you know, that was running the headset just goes like, oh yeah, okay, now turn to your side and jump. And you go like, really? Am I gonna fall? Well, obviously you're gonna fall. So, like some people don't do it. It took me a minute, just like, okay, this is VR, this is VR, this is VR, and then just like, oh no, but it's an experience already.
Well, yeah, like I said, I felt like probably this idea is so simple and so obvious that obviously somebody had to like make it, you know. But yeah, remember, it's just like an example to show that, you know, if you start to think outside of the box with capabilities that are currently are here or about to become, you know, very soon, then yeah, it opens a lot ideas for new experiences, not just games, not just playing, not just having entertainment. Like, for example, I will give 2 examples of games that I believe are a little bit more than just games. So one of them is Journey. If you have played it, since it's a PlayStation exclusive, actually. And the reason I'm excluding is because it's a game where you don't have to kill anybody. There is no game over. There is no continue. There is no wrongdoing. It's just a flow. You just go from the beginning to the end. And it just gives you the experience of feeling it, of understanding it, you know. So that's one game. The other game I recently, by the way, played on the mobile phone, it's called This War of Mine, which also is, the reason I was interested in this game is because I heard that people who are actually lived through the war, wrote to developers of this game that they were like very fascinated and touched by how immersive this game is and how actually it portrays in some ways accurately how it feels to be in a war. So yeah, this game is actually, it's giving a little bit different type of experience than you usually expect from a game, because it's definitely not bright, it's quite depressive, dark, you know, and it's not about the entertainment anymore, it's about something else, a little bit more deep. So there are probably, you know, more games like that. It's just I gave these two examples. Anyway, yeah.
I have an actual question about composition in those kind of hyper-realistic scenes. For example, if you use VR, don't you think that it's going to be a real issue for like exclaiming certain aspects? For example, in the Alien Queen project, if you move your head around, that's not really going to be the point of that presentation. For example, if you're showing a model or the alien, you aim the camera at the head or in the carving or in the interior. So the question is like, as a media producer, how would it be possible to integrate VR in those kind of hyper-realistic shots?
Yeah, well, the first thing is that when you are in VR, it's a totally different thing than you're looking at the image, because image is in a square, it's framed. It's always framed when you're looking at it. So you have to think about the composition, how you frame it, what kind of angle you're showing. And all this disappears when you're in VR. It's just, you cannot use it anymore. There is no such thing as composition unless you're standing somewhere watching something very far away. Then you can play with the composition. But basically, that's a little bit away, you know, like you don't have to really worry about the frames anymore because you have everything around you. And the thing is, what you get, which you don't have when you have simple frames, is you have scale. And I have, for example, Alien Queen Run, I had tried it to put in the VR, and when I give it to other people to try, for example, the first reaction all the time, because they know what to expect, they've seen how the Alien Queen looks, but when they put the VR, the first impression that it says, oh my God, it's huge, you know. So you play with the scale, and the scale is a major thing. It's a different thing, you know. And when you realize it, when you feel this, you know that this is the card you have to play in the VR. So scale is one of the things. I guess there are other things which I probably cannot think at this current moment, but scale is definitely one of the major advantages when you are in VR. This is just where you go in VR, scale. Any other questions?
Hi, I was willing to ask you, what are your freshly hammered nails in the industry and in your personal creative life? Is that a clear question?
When you say, how do you say, freshly hammered nails, right?
Yeah, like you would say, I hammered this, I nailed this, this is mine.
In the game industry.
What are you proud of in the industry and in your personal creative life?
Yeah, in personal creative life, well, I usually, if I proud something, it's usually very short, and then I get to be disappointed again. But you know, I get to be probably proud of myself when I'm doing something personal, when I manage to receive a positive feedback from community. And this is the thing that I realized quite recently, is there is a difference what type of positive feedback you get, because there is one type of positive feedback which you get when people say, wow, this is cool, you made a very cool thing, and this is a compliment personally to you. A person saying something good about your skills and what you're doing. He says that he, admits that you are doing something right. But there is another positive comments which I'm now actually fully interested in. Are those when people say, "Oh my God, what you created it just made me feel really amazing," and I felt this for the first time well, not the first time, but I felt this quite majorly. I did also on Unreal Engine 4 the fan art of Resident Evil main hall, because I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil, the second one. And when I just posted it, because I kind of did it for myself as well, like learning on Real Engine 4, I got a very extremely positive feedback from Resident Evil fans. And they were like writing me a lot of personal emails, like, and they were including like, oh my God, thank you for making this, because it made me go back to my teenage years and make me feel a kid again. You know, so thank you for that. And I felt like, okay, this is again the experience probably that I'm willing to have now. So I guess in my future now projects, especially personal ones, what I'm looking for is to make things that not be only cool or something, but something make that people would actually appreciate. You know, so that's. I guess I would be very proud if I would make something like this, you know, where people would be touched emotionally or in any way emotionally, you know, in either in positive or negative way, well, most likely positive, you know. So that would make me feel like that. And in a professional industry, it's totally the opposite. It's usually where, you know, I get to be proud of myself when there is something impossible to do in terms of everything. I don't know, maybe it's management, maybe it's deadline, maybe it's something where you actually feel that, okay, this is it, I'm now screwed for that, this is it, it's just impossible to fix. And then somehow you do it, by accident or by something. This is what makes me proud, you know. So when I'm in the industry as a worker, you know, I'm looking at it as a sport, probably could say. So it's like literally a rational technical achievements. Like I make, you know, there's a project, there is a problem, and I solved it, and it's not working. Everybody's happy, you know, and then I'm happy as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, that's it. Then let's thank Andrius.